Hi people, more innovation back here again as always, and as usual. Yeah, this is going to be an occult alignment video, as you can tell and or see, on the EU, the European Union. Now, let me start off by saying that the EU is ruled by Libra as a whole, unsurprisingly. Um, the EU is all about, from a neutral perspective, every EU member state in the European Union, obviously in Europe, is just from a neutral perspective. We're talking about people that are thinking about the UK, for example, think pre-Brexit. Just the EU, what we understand as the EU as a whole. Now, the EU is all about refinement, like I said, and it's ruled by Libra, unsurprisingly, because, regulations and everything reminiscent of modern civilization, you can find all of that in the EU. Um, all regulations across the board for running a nation economically, infrastructurally, um, judicially, every aspect and or facet of society, or at least most of them, is refined. It's well fleshed out, well thought out, well rounded. Keyword is refinement. So it's not a surprise that the EU is ruled by Libra. It does have its drawbacks, though. Drawback, although, compared to the overall, to the whole, it is relatively speaking minor or semi intermediary at best, is inhibition. So all of these regulations sometimes can be a pain in the ass, and people that live in Europe know what I'm talking about. Having to go through multiple channels and or checkpoints for something that you personally view as simplistic can sometimes be an inconvenience. But as a whole, again, it's still in the end, it's still worth it. Honestly, as long as people don't go over the top in terms of extremism in relation to the aforementioned. Um, and for the rest, yeah, intellectuality, academia, all of that, uh, for forming close knit bonds with each other, with one another. That's what the EU is all about, generally speaking, for the most part. Um, I'm going to cover the US in a separate video. The US, and to a lesser extent North America, but specifically the US, is ruled by Virgo. I remember it being ruled by Virgo, but I still need to confirm that. This is just a sideline as a means of making a comparison. The EU has a slightly to semi considerably higher quality of life compared to the US. The US, long story short, is all about, is for the most part about productivity, manufacturing goods and services that are consumed globally or made use of, whereas the EU focuses on the all the aforementioned, just overall quality of life, maintenance and or improvement, and everything that makes it so that a quality of life is at absolute top-notch levels. And that's it. Before I go, for people that are knowledgeable on astrology, I did do a chart on this, an orrery chart. You're welcome to download it. Find the link in the description of this video. Do keep in mind that you should only pay attention to the 10th house. The EU is represented by the 10th house. So the 10th house in astrology, everything from midheaven to the 11th house, but not including the latter. So not including the 11th house. And you'll see a bunch of activity that only further supports everything I said. Bye bye.